They told you to play fair. They told you to wait your turn, keep your head down, smile politely, and accept the rules as if those rules were written by fate itself. They said life rewards patience, that justice eventually shows up, that if you're good long enough, quiet long enough, obedient long enough, the world will clap for you. And you believed it. You stood in line while others cut. You followed instructions while others rewrote them. You lost again and again, not because you were weak, but because you were playing a game that was never designed for you to win. Then one day, something cracked inside you. Not loudly, not dramatically, just a silent realization that settled deep into your bones. You didn't lose because you weren't good enough. You lost because the game was rigged. And that's when the plot twist began. They never expect the one who's been pushed to the corner to flip the table. They never expect the quiet observer to become the architect of chaos. They underestimate you because you've been underestimated your whole life. They mistake your patience for weakness, your silence for surrender, your pain for compliance. They don't see what happens inside a mind that's been ignored for too long. They don't hear the conversations you've had with yourself at 3 in the morning when the world sleeps and the truth wakes up. They don't know what it costs to smile while being disrespected, to stay calm while being cheated, to keep going while being laughed at. And because they don't know, they won't see it coming when you decide you're done playing by their rules. This is not about becoming cruel. This is not about revenge for the sake of destruction. This is about power, real power, the kind that comes when you stop begging for approval and start owning your narrative, the kind that shows up when you realize that morality without strength is just self-sabotage dressed as virtue. You can be kind, but you don't have to be harmless. You can be patient, but you don't have to be passive. You can be silent, but when you speak, your words can rearrange the room. The Joker was never powerful because he was insane. He was powerful because he understood the joke before everyone else did. He saw through the illusion of order. He recognized that rules are only rules because people agree to follow them. And the moment you stop agreeing, everything changes. They will tell you that changing the rules is wrong, that disrupting the system is dangerous, that rocking the boat makes you the villain. But ask yourself this: who benefits when you stay small? Who profits from your obedience? Who sleeps peacefully because you're too afraid to stand up? Systems don't collapse because one person questions them. Systems collapse because they were fragile to begin with. And fragile systems fear one thing more than anything else: awareness. The moment you see clearly, you can't unsee it. The moment you understand how the game is played, you have two choices: keep losing with dignity or rewrite the game entirely. This is where the real transformation begins. Not when you scream, not when you announce your plans, but when you go quiet in a different way, a focused way, a deliberate way. When you stop explaining yourself to people who never listened anyway. When you stop proving your worth to those who already decided you didn't have any. When you stop asking for permission to exist at your full potential. You start observing, you start learning, you start understanding human behavior, patterns, weaknesses, motivations. You realize that most people aren't confident, they're just loud. They're not strong, they're just supported. They're not smart, they're just repeating what worked for someone else. And once you see that, fear loses its grip on you. The plot twist they'll remember forever isn't loud success or flashy revenge. It's the moment they realized you were never what they thought you were. It's when the person they overlooked becomes the one they can't ignore. It's when the one they laughed at becomes the one they watch carefully. It's when you succeed in a way that doesn't ask for their validation. You don't need to humiliate them. Life does that on its own. You just need to win differently, quietly, strategically, relentlessly. You start by mastering yourself, because the greatest chaos you can unleash is discipline. People expect you to react emotionally, to explode, to make mistakes. When you don't, it confuses them. When you stay calm under pressure, it unsettles them. When you keep improving while they keep underestimating you, it terrifies them. They want you predictable. They want you triggered. They want you trapped in old versions of yourself. The moment you break that pattern, you step into power. And power doesn't announce itself. Power moves in silence. You stop telling people what you're going to do. You stop sharing your dreams with those who benefit from your doubts. You stop explaining your decisions to people who only understand comfort. Instead, you build. You train your mind to be sharp and your emotions to be tools, not weaknesses. You turn pain into precision. You turn rejection into clarity. You turn isolation into focus. Every insult becomes information. Every setback becomes a lesson. Every loss becomes a blueprint. You don't complain, you calculate. They'll say you've changed, and they'll be right. But what they really mean is you no longer serve the version of you that made them comfortable. You no longer accept crumbs and call it gratitude. You no longer confuse loyalty with self-betrayal. You no longer stay in places that drain you just to prove you can endure suffering. Endurance without purpose is just slow destruction. You choose growth instead, and growth is disruptive. Growth doesn't ask for approval. Growth doesn't wait for consensus. Growth happens whether people like it or not. The Joker understood something most people refuse to accept. The world doesn't reward fairness. It rewards leverage. It doesn't care how good your intentions are. It responds to impact. That doesn't mean you become heartless. It means you become aware. You learn when to smile and when to stay silent, when to give and when to withhold, when to play along and when to flip the script. You learn that unpredictability, when controlled, is power. Not chaotic unpredictability, but strategic unpredictability. The kind that keeps people guessing, the kind that makes them respect you without understanding why. This is where the real motivation becomes dangerous, because once you understand this, you can't go back to being naive. You can't unlearn the truth that you've been living under someone else's rules. You can't unsee how often you've been manipulated by guilt, fear, or hope. You start asking different questions. Not, is this fair, but does this serve me? Not, what will they think, but what will this cost me if I don't act? Not, am I allowed, but what happens if I do it anyway? They will try to pull you back. They always do. Misery loves consistency. People who benefited from your silence will suddenly call you selfish. People who ignored your pain will suddenly care about your tone. People who never supported your dreams will suddenly warn you about risks. That's how you know you're on the right path. Resistance is confirmation. Discomfort is evidence. If everyone is comfortable with your growth, you're not growing enough. You don't need to become the villain in their story, but you also don't need to remain the victim in your own. Let them misunderstand you. Let them create their narratives. You're too busy creating results. You're too busy becoming someone future you will thank. The plot twist isn't that you destroyed everything. The plot twist is that you built something so strong they couldn't control it. You didn't burn bridges out of anger. You simply stopped crossing bridges that led nowhere. One day they'll look at you and realize the joke was on them, not because you mocked them, but because you outgrew the game they were so proud of. You didn't win by cheating, you won by evolving. You didn't shout your power, you embodied it. And that's what they'll remember forever. Not the noise, not the drama, the moment they realized they underestimated the wrong person. You were never meant to fit into a broken system. You were meant to expose it by succeeding beyond it. You were never meant to be liked by everyone. You were meant to be respected by yourself. And when you finally choose that, when you finally deliver that plot twist, the world doesn't just watch, it recalibrates around you.